Good day, everyone. My name is Nadeen Blair, and I'm excited to have Muoyo Okome as my guest today on Keeping It Simple AI. And I am launching a series where I will be featuring persons who have gotten started with business ventures, books, anything that they really wanted to do but leveraging AI. And this builds on a framework that I recently presented at a Microsoft boot camp led by Nicole McLaren Campbell, where I shared with young people there's never been a better time to get started with something that you want to do, because with AI as your partner or co-pilot, it really provides access like never before. And I chose S.T.A.R.T intentionally because the biggest hurdle is normally actually getting started, overcoming the overthinking and the analysis paralysis and just getting started. The acronym actually has a meaning as well. S, using AI to spot a problem or an opportunity. T, leveraging AI to come up with a quick prototype or framework that you can test the idea. A, once you're onto something that has legs, automating and scaling with AI. R, running the business, leveraging a number of AI tools that are available today. And then last but not least, T, which is tweak and grow, because you'll never have a perfect solution. So you actually have to continue to tweak, leveraging insights and grow. And so I've invited Muoyo Okome today because he epitomizes for me getting started. Fun fact, Muoyo Okome is actually my brother-in-law and love. And I have to mention that he is very good at listening to all the harebrained ideas that my sister and I have, but the one thing he beats us on is the ability to actually get started. So a little bit about Muoyo. Muoyo Okome is an entrepreneur and technologist. His mobile applications have amassed more than 12 million downloads without external funding. He has held technical and business roles at leading tech companies, including Netflix, Microsoft, IBM, and now through Muoyo.ai, he's exploring building a software business where AI collaborates across all key roles, from development to business strategy to marketing. And he has been documenting this journey for the public, which is super brave. He holds a BSc in computer science from Princeton University and an MBA from the Wharton School. Whoop, whoop. And a proud son of Nigerian immigrants, Muoyo was raised in Brooklyn, New York, and currently resides in New York City with his wife, my sis, and 2 children, my niece and nephew. So welcome, Muoyo.
Hey. I don't know why I'm clapping for myself, but thank you for having me.
We have to clap for ourselves sometimes. So let's get into it. You recently shared on LinkedIn that you shipped 3 apps in a month using vibe coding, which I find fascinating given that you come from a traditional software engineering background. So what prompted the shift from traditional coding to vibe coding? And by the way, you had built and launched lots of apps before that. So what prompted this shift, and what has been the pros and cons of the vibe coding approach?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. So again, thank you for having me. To answer your question, I think there are a few things. So one is that, from the moment that I saw ChatGPT come, actually, I think it was DALL-E first and then ChatGPT, I knew I wanted to do something with AI. I didn't know what that thing was, but like a lot of people, I couldn't take my eyes off of it. So I was just studying and trying and testing. At a certain point, I saw that, I guess, AI coding was really taking off. And I think so it was one story I heard. There was a guy, he was not a software engineer. He had worked in tech before, but he'd worked on the business side, really, right? And he'd already had a big win. He was working as the GM of Uber. So he'd helped take Uber from 0 to 3 billion. So he already had that, but he wanted to build his own app, right? And so he didn't know how to code. He saw ChatGPT and he said, hey, I wonder if I could use this to help me code something. So he tried out a few ideas. Long story less long, one of them becomes an AI note taker app. He starts noticing that, he just puts it up on the store, puts a price on it, and doesn't think it's going to be a big thing, but people are reacting to it. And this thing, it really got some momentum. And yeah, I said long story less long, but I didn't get to the point. So he's growing this thing to $5 to $6 million annual revenue in
Wow.
less than a year. Right.
Yeah.
And I think at the time I found out about the story, it was only making $1 to $2 million or something like
Oh,
that. But I said, okay, wow. You have a person who can't code, but just has an interest in it. And by being kind of maniacally passionate about it, he was able to build this product that is, I'm not going to say it's the perfect product, but it's good enough for that many people to be using it and for it to bring in that kind of revenue as a one person business.
yes.
So I said, I would also like to do that, right? And then, after that, I started seeing other stories. There were some guys who were high school kids building significant pieces of software. There's one called Claude AI that brings in around $3 million per month now. So more around $30 million per year. And it's
Wow.
not just the revenue. For me, it's the
Yeah.
fact that they're building things that people can use, and it kind of doesn't matter that they used AI to build it, right?
Yes.
And me saying that I'm glossing over some things, it does matter that they used AI, but to the end consumer cares that they're using a product that is doing whatever they want it to do, right? So being somebody that had already been in this app space and building things, I immediately wanted to get involved in that, right? And when you look at it, solves a number of problems for me. So I've been building my apps working primarily with developers in different countries. So one of the teams I work with most reliably and most often recently is based in Turkey. So even though they're great, there's a time zone barrier. And if we don't speak at exactly the right time of day, then something that could be a 15-minute to hour change could become like a 2 week prop. This literally happens all the time, right? It's just you're saying something, they think you said another thing, they come back, it doesn't quite meet your vision, and then all of a sudden it just spirals out of control. So now if I need to make a change like that, I can really just go into the software. I use Claude most often, but whatever AI, LLM, or vibe coding tool you're using, and I can just tell it what I'm thinking. We have a quick conversation, and the change is done, right? So for me, I'm simplifying, but that's a game changer, right? And
Yes.
earlier, you said that I'm somebody who's built software. I'm technical. I am, but I stepped away from it for a long period of time, and it kind of made me lose confidence in my. I didn't think that I'm somebody that could write code anymore. And this is something that's helped me to rediscover that. I already kind of did because I started before I worked at Netflix. I did a data science boot camp that kind of reintroduced me to, oh, okay, I can write code. I didn't forget everything. So that helped
Yes.
me. But then having this AI superpower kind of takes it to another level where I'm able to do things just way faster than I ever would. Of course, I need to watch out for whatever bugs it's going to introduce. But at the end of the day, I feel like it still puts me ahead of where I would be.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Have there been any cons on the vibe coding side?
For me personally, no. I think it's that you need to look at it realistically about what it can and can't do. And
Yeah.
for me, my expectations aren't that I'm going to give it one prompt and then it's going to build like Microsoft, right? Because
Right.
I think you see that dream being sold on LinkedIn and different
Yeah.
platforms out there, maybe YouTube, people tell that story. And for me, that's a lie, right? You might be able to build a reasonable demo with a couple prompts, but it's going to take a little bit more than that. So I never had that expectation. So I'm not disappointed by that. And then, I also know there are certain things where I'm not just going to trust the AI, right? Like, so if there's anything I need to do that's going to involve people's PII, like personal private information,
Yeah.
that's an area I don't really feel comfortable just handing that over to an AI. I feel like at that point you want to have expertise involved. You need to really know what you're doing and double check what you're doing. And people
Absolutely.
are finding that out. But I
Yeah.
haven't personally, I haven't personally seen any downside that I can think of. Okay, maybe if there's one, I think there's a potential that it can allow you to skip on the learning, right?
Hmm.
You can just say, I'll let the AI do everything. But if you take an approach where you're going to let the AI do most of it, but then you're still going to have the AI teach you while you go,
Right.
then I think you can, still get a lot of that upside.
Okay. So you said the word learning,
Yeah.
and I'm going to jump into your decision to learn in public, to share your successes and failures while you build. Super brave, super vulnerable. Can you share a little with us around why you decided to learn and build in public?
Sure. I think that there are several motivations. Some of it is selfish, some of it's unselfish, right? So, from a selfish perspective, I think that whenever you share content, it helps to kind of bring attention to what you're doing, right? Because there are like lots of different ways to market, whether that's your product, your personal brands, or if you're in the job market looking for a job. So like me just sharing what I'm working on is a great way to just have people, come look at my page. You wouldn't believe the number of recruiters that I have just reach out because of some of these posts, right? And
Yeah, wow.
yeah, there are a lot of people that believe, you have to act very professional because it's LinkedIn, and I use emojis in these things, right? And I try to just write like I talk, and just distill it down to as few words as I can, and just kind of tell the story of what's going on. And by doing that, I think people like will find it more interesting and be more willing to investigate. Okay, what's this guy up to? Can he help my
Mhm.
team? Do I want to give him some money to to build something? All those. I don't know. It's just kind of like increasing the surface area for something lucky or serendipitous to happen, right? So
Yeah,
that's
like
one
that.
thing. And then another thing is just kind of sharing what's possible to other people and kind of trying to make it more approachable, because I believe that it's never been easier to build something, build an idea or bring something from 0 to 1. So, by just telling that story and exposing what I actually did, yeah, I think that is hopefully helpful to some people.
Yeah. No, it definitely is. And it definitely is inspiring.
I appreciate that.
I'd love for you to share a little bit about the three apps you've built in a month using
Sure.
vibe coding. What what do they do, these apps?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll mention before I started building those, I was actually using vibe coding to just work on other apps that I already have, to make updates to them. And some of those changes, well, yeah, some of those changes have been way more meaningful from like a financial and yeah, I say from a financial and portfolios perspective to me, just because I have the ability to just test things so much more rapidly
Yes.
with vibe coding. So I was already doing that for a couple months, and I did have the idea that I wanted to build some new apps, and I was finally able to just clear enough space for me to do that. But in terms of the three apps, so let's see. There's been the first one was an AI rock identifier. I'll get to why in a second. The second one was a math helper app. I renamed it to Math Cheat. Don't come at, don't come after me. And that actually it uses almost the same code as the rock identifier, but it's just reskinned and reimagined. And then the third one was a journal called Purposeful. I'd wanted to build a journal product for a long time, and so this finally made it very, very easy. So I said, why not? And I did it.
Awesome. Congrats.
Thank you.
So now I want to take you through the S.T.A.R.T with
Yes.
AI framework that I've developed. And I want to understand for each of the areas, was that relevant in your process
Sure.
and what applications, if any, you leveraged. So let's start with S, which is around spotting a problem or an opportunity leveraging AI tools. Can you share with any of your apps? How was this relevant?
Yeah. So in terms of spotting the opportunity, I'm really looking at a portfolio approach right now. So I've not been trying to build any big significant product that's going to take me a long amount of time. So at this stage of the game, what I'm really trying to do is build out a portfolio, build out a base for myself. And the rationale for me is that I'm kind of treating it like, I'd like all of these apps to just pay for my life, right? And then at that point, if I want to take bigger shots, then yeah, I'll go for it. But I guess I have a personality quirk or flow where I don't like to ask people for things. So like the idea of going around and asking people to invest in my big, it just doesn't appeal to me. So I prefer to just take a permissionless approach where I'm just building things. As I build each one of these apps, I'm learning different things about the App Store. I'm learning about how to launch or, how an audience is going to receive something. Just all different lessons about building, launching, putting stuff out there, right? But then for each micro opportunity, I'm relying on the data to tell me what to build, right? So, I talked about a rock identifier. It's not that I love rocks that much or that I care about rocks. It's I've seen that there's a space. There's like a niche of these AI apps, AI identifier apps, and some of them do really, really, really well, and you just be surprised. So, the largest category I found. Plant identifiers, and the largest plant identifier I've seen makes about $13 million in revenue per month. Right. So
Wow.
it's insane. But it's because people find it useful. There are a lot of plant lovers out there, or people are curious about plants and they want to know, what is this plant? Let me get some information about this disease on it or whatever. Right. And so I'm just going, there are different tools. One of the tools is Data.ai. There is SensorTower.com. There's Mobile Action, Astro. And I'm just looking for, what are people searching for? And, where are there supply demand mismatches? So, more people are looking for a certain idea than maybe people are building for it, or maybe in a space there may be one tool that's very, very successful, and then there's really no definite number two. So, why can't that be me? So my thing is like, let me find all of these different niche opportunities, build some apps, get them out there quickly. Some of them are going to absolutely fail. It doesn't really matter because I didn't take a long time to do it. Some of them might be like base hits, right? They don't do great, but hey, it's bringing me $1,000 or $2,000 worth of revenue that I don't need to worry about. So, you start to stack these like micro successes and you kind of start getting somewhere. And then also, you know, beyond just what it brings to you financially, each time you do it, you're learning something different and you don't necessarily know what that thing is going to be. And hey, you know, maybe one of those opportunities, you just realize, I like this. People like it. Let me just double down and really spend some time here, right? That opportunity is always there, but if not, you can just keep on moving on. So I don't plan to be in this mode forever, but for me, I like the opportunity to just build up my skill in building by doing it a lot, trying to do it fast. You know, it's like I use the analogy before. If you want to like get in better shape, right? Doing one push up isn't it's not going to do anything, right? But if you
Oh,
do a lot of
sure.
push ups every day, that might help. so
I know.
that's you know I'm trying to do a lot of push-ups every day and just learn a lot. Then also just have the added benefit of, hey, like these things are micro assets, right? And then also I think there's just the benefit of I get to operate in a space where I think the world is kind of going already. Like I
Yeah.
think you even see, I saw a note, it was like a Reddit screenshot that somebody had a vibe coding interview at Google, right? For a PM role. So I said, okay, if Google's doing this now, everybody's going to be doing this, right? So let me just learn about this world and you know, before people are really doing it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I may have answered a different question. Sorry, but
No, you answered multiple.
okay.
So, spot the problem or opportunity. You gave us some great insights into how you leverage the data and the actual applications like Data AI, Data.ai that you use. So, we're going to put all of those into the comments so persons can find them. And then you started getting into building the prototype quickly to test.
Yes.
And so let's jump into that because I know you mentioned Claude. Are there
Yeah.
any other tools that you're using to get those things built quickly and into the space and see if they land or not?
Yeah. So I mean, for me, Claude is my primary workhorse. It does almost everything that I needed to do. I use ChatGPT and Perplexity a lot for their deep research function. Um,
I love them.
yeah. So anytime that I'm getting into a new space, I'll just normally ChatGPT, I like theirs best. I'll just have it write me a report on the space, and you know, I'm just able to see if there are things that I don't know that I can take advantage of. And for anybody that doesn't know, it's like graduate level research, and it's citing sources from all over the internet. So it's like stuff that you would have had access to anyway, just using Google, but it's just bringing it all right to your front doorstep.
Yeah.
But it's mostly Claude for me in terms of building the code. But then since I'm doing iOS apps, the language that you ship those in is Swift. So I just have Claude write it into Swift code, and then you have to use Apple's tool, which is called Xcode, in order to build it. But it's kind of immaterial, right? It just is what it is. So like I'll build the code in Xcode, and Xcode will tell me if there are any errors or anything. And you can always bring the errors back to Claude and say, hey, what is this error? Tell me about it. Fix this error. And then at the end of the day, you have to upload from Xcode to the App Store.
Okay. All right. And how long is that process
Of
of building
building a
with
prototype.
Claude? And yeah.
So it depends, right? It depends on what you are building, you know. So I'll give you an example. So right now, I took my um rock identifier app, and there was another niche I wanted to go after. There are actually a few niches I wanted to go after because hey, why not? I already have that code. So going from that to another identifier app is going to be much shorter. You know, I can have the first version done within the same day, right? But then
Mhm.
after that, there's going to be some things I want to, you know, I believe that just because it's AI doesn't mean it has to be like AI slop. So I'm going to add some polish. I'm going to look at, okay, like what are some different animations that I could use that's going to make this feel more premium. Now that it's not a rock identifier and it's a dinosaur identifier, what's going to be relevant to people? That's a made up example, but what's going to be relevant to
Oh,
this new
the
audience?
dinosaur.
Yeah, right. That would be kind of crazy, but um, the different things that are going to matter to the audience. So it's going to take me time to think about that, to make those changes, to tweak it, to see how it feels as a user. Then are there any new errors that popped up as a result of me making those changes? Let me take care. So that might end up taking me a few more days to go through. But, the process of getting something up and running, you can do that within a couple hours, right? But there's a difference between that and then something that you're actually going to ship and have people use.
Yeah. Wonderful. All right. You hear that, guys? You can have it up and running within hours and days. And so let's jump into, we're at A, automate and scale.
Yeah.
You have a business, right? A portfolio of apps that you have built and continue to build. Share with us some of the AI applications that you have leveraged to set it and forget it, automate and scale things that are working well.
Yeah, yeah. So I wouldn't say I've gotten to the set it and forget it point yet. I think the biggest leverage I'm getting right now is in development, like we talked about, right?
Yeah.
And that's huge for me because, like, let's say in the past, on a prototype, I might be spending, between like $3,000 and $10,000 getting that um, up and running. Right now, it's
Wow.
costing me. I actually pay for a team plan on Claude. I could probably downgrade that, but that cost me, I think, $160 per month or something. So it's at least an order of magnitude, if not orders of magnitude less. I'm spending a lot on Claude, but from that's like nothing, right? So that's been the workhorse for me. But I guess at the outset of this experiment, my idea was to try to automate away as much as I can. So I keep, as I go through, I try to document, okay, what are the things that I need to get done for this to be a viable product and for me to be able to offer it. So another thing that I automate is the description, and that's really easy because
Yeah.
um something that's funny about the App Store description is that you need to have it, but nobody actually reads it. Probably because on the internet, people don't actually read. Right? There are many people that can't read, and many people just choose not to. So it's going to be a very small minority of people that actually read through this description, but you need to have it anyway, right?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
for me, that's an excellent opportunity to just have AI write the description. So I'll put that into ChatGPT, and all I'll do is just go through and edit it, make sure it's not saying something that's not true, or adding features that I don't have. But that's something that in the past that would probably it could delay me another day or two because I just really don't want to do it. Right,
Yeah.
right. But
Yeah.
now I can just have it done, and it's now just a quick editing job, and boom. Another thing that I was doing recently was just kind of templatizing this. Is that is that a word? But I talked about just I want to do more of these identifier apps. So I had AI just develop a script for me to go from one of my source code repositories, and just create the new one. There's still things I need to go in and do after the fact to make it complete, right?
Yeah.
But it's getting a lot of the work done quickly for me. So that's pretty good. Another area I'm looking at that I haven't gotten to yet is on the marketing side. it's like you can build anything you want, but you still need to market it, distribute it, get it out there. So just looking at all of these different video production tools and how you can use those for organic posting, how you can use those for ads, and there are people doing it to great effect. So it's definitely something that I haven't implemented, but I want to implement it, and I will implement. Another area where that I think is ripe for it, that I see some people using, is customer service. Right? There are a lot of times where 80 or 90% of the questions that come in will be the same question. So why not train an AI on, you can just document the ways to respond to the most common questions, and then you're only having to deal with the questions that aren't those questions, right? So,
Yes, yes, yes.
yeah, those are some areas that I haven't touched yet, but I think are great. I've also used it to help me do a first read through different contracts. For different partnerships. Lawyers out there, don't kill me, but I think that certain contracts just aren't that high stakes, but yet you still want to know what's going on, and I think that can be a useful way to just make it easier and more approachable.
Yeah, I totally agree. I typically leverage AI to read the contracts, and then I still get my attorney's kind of stamp of approval, but I'll send some very specific things as an example, or I'll draft a contract, and then I will send something and say, am I covered? And he's great. He'll add some things. So that helps to accelerate the process. So I love that. So we've gotten into run the business a little bit, how we leverage AI for operations, marketing, customer experience, user support. And I love that you mentioned that you're still getting there, but are looking at different tools to help you do those things. Do
Yep.
you want to share any of the tools that you're looking at?
Sure, sure. So for there are different areas. So everybody knows by now, Claude is my favorite for
Yes.
for the
You don't
um,
say.
yeah, for development. So it's funny because most people who talk about Claude nowadays use Claude Code, I believe, but I actually use Claude Desktop.
Mm,
I just like its UI for being able to have conversations. It does have some weaknesses in that the length of each chat you can have is limited. But somehow that also helps me to enforce, not trying to do too much in each step. So
mm,
it's kind of a strength and a weakness, but maybe I'll move away from that at some point. ChatGPT, of course, primarily for the research, but also it's also great at generating images now, since their recent updates. So that can even make app icons for me. I haven't used it for screenshots yet. I probably could, but it's really pretty good for that. Then on the video side, the tools that I'm bullish on, there's Hailuo is one. I think it's spelled Hailuo, I believe.
yeah.
Another is Runway. And so both of these, it's actually because there was a young gentleman who I was speaking to the other day. He's built out this movie series on Instagram called Ape World. Um, Shout out to Toby. I'll give him some press here. But so it's gotten over 20 million views in the past, I don't know, couple months or past few weeks. And
Wow.
so those are the primary tools that he's using. So I said, okay, if it's good enough for him, it's definitely good enough for my little ad. I think for if you want to generate like face to camera kind of stuff, then HeyGen is a pretty good tool. Arcads is another one. It's a little bit more expensive, but I know a lot of people use it for their ads. Let me see, what else is there? What else do I use? Yeah, maybe those are my primary. Um, I'm trying to think of other areas of the business. We talked about Perplexity, of course.
Anything on the user support
On the
and
user
customer
support.
experience that you're exploring?
So I've heard of some, but I don't want to recommend any because
Yeah.
I'm not using any consistently like that.
Okay, no problem. Awesome. And then T, start.
Yes.
T is now for tweaking and refining and continuing to grow. And I love that you mentioned that some of your apps before that you didn't even build using vibe coding, you were able to tweak using vibe coding apps, and they have continued to grow for you. One of my
Yeah.
favorites is obviously your headshot app, where I got a lot of my headshots when I was starting as an entrepreneur. So get into it for us, Moyo, in terms of how you're leveraging AI to tweak and
Yeah.
grow.
I mean, it's kind of like you spoke. So that headshot app that you use, it's much the quality of the headshots is much better now than when you used it. But it's because sorry about that. But the models have evolved, and so it's like why not use a more recent model, right? Once it's available, it's pretty easy for me to just make the changes to drop it in. So I've done things like that. Sometimes in one of my more popular apps that has a lot of users, I noticed in my dashboard, okay, this app is having more crashes than it should have. So I'm just able to go in. I installed a software called Crashlytics. It identifies where the crashes are coming from, and then I'm able to just quickly code those changes, and that's going to make a difference for a lot of users who are using the app, and then in turn that may make Apple say, okay, let me serve this app up to more people because it's a little bit higher quality than it was
Yeah.
before, right? So that can have a meaningful effect on your revenue, on your retention, and the amount of impressions that you're getting from the App Store, right? Um, and so that when it comes to tweaking, it's like there are endless things you can do. I try to ground it in the data as much as I can, just noticing where I think the biggest opportunities might be. And then, yeah, just trying to make those changes that I think are going to lead to you know, some meaningful growth in some metric. Right. And I can actually give you a really good example of a tweak that was great for me. So in one of my apps, so from a long time ago, I noticed that competitors were always using a weekly subscription plan. And for me, I said, hey, I would never want a weekly subscription plan because that just seems ridiculous. Who wants to pay for something for a week? I'm not doing that. So I had a yearly plan and a monthly plan. Finally, one day, I saw a YouTube video just talking about somebody that used a free trial and a weekly plan along with a yearly plan, and it was working really, really well for him. So I said, fine, you know what? Let me test this. This has been like that app has doubled and then doubled again, and it's still growing due to this plan. And I guess it kind of taught me to not try to spend out of my wallet for my customers and to allow people to do what they want to do. It was just so easy to test because yeah, it's like you can vibe code the thing, and then if it didn't work, I could always just go back to where I was before, right?
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. So you are an MBA from the
Yeah.
best business school on the planet.
Hey.
I'm not biased, guys. And obviously, you can do some of this, these analytics in your sleep. Do you leverage AI at all when looking at the mounds of data and trying to think through different strategies?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. A good example of where I did that was so in trying to scale up my Facebook ad spend. I just had a very long running conversation with ChatGPT where at the end of the week, I would give it my data across, there are about five different important metrics. One of them would be the cost of acquiring a trial user, the conversion of a user from a free trial to paid. I would look at the retention, just different things. And it also helped me to come up with, hey, these are the important metrics that I think you should look at. And we kind of had a conversation about that. And so I had this long running conversation just over a number of months where I would talk about, hey, here's where the numbers are. Um, should I increase? If so, how much should I increase? And then honestly, I would talk to it about my fears sometimes. I'd say, okay,
Yeah.
like, it dipped right now. Conversions have dropped to this. Like, is this normal? What should I do? Then also just trying to create larger context around it, saying, okay, let's say I'm spending $100 per day now. What is the most that anybody spends on Facebook, right? Am I close to the limit? Turns out people spend hundreds of millions. So, I probably still have a way to go, right? But all of that can, like, if somebody is already a professional at this, then they'll
Yeah.
already know some of these things and they can just quickly make some of these changes with all of that context that they already have. I have some experience with this, but not at that level. So I'm able to kind of just treat it like a coach or, an experienced team member and ask it those questions. Granted, you have to take things with a grain of salt, but it can just
Yes.
help me to have more comfort in changes that I say, okay, is this considered a good return to where I can continue this campaign? Can I increase it? And it can be really helpful to just get that yes or no. And then you do have to do things to try to make it be to make it be honest with you and not say you're the greatest
You're
ever.
the greatest.
You're dominating now. But yeah, it can just be very helpful for testing things and then for just learning new skills, right? And doing it on the fly. So I use it all the time.
Love that. Love that, Muoyo. And thanks for introducing this concept of you can actually use AI to learn new skills.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have done a really great job of breaking down how you have started with AI. And that doesn't mean you do everything with AI. I think Moyo has also, demonstrated that he still thinks and problem solves and all of that, but it's also something that you can partner with for speed and alternative ideas and efficiency, and that drives that much more impact. So just a couple of questions in closing, Moyo. We started with talking about analysis paralysis and overthinking being the kryptonite of many, being the antithesis of starting. Do you have any tips for persons who have a difficulty getting that start?
Got it. Got it. Believe it or not, I go through the same things, right? Where just last week I came across a good keyword opportunity, right? I was trying to figure out what kind of app I could build at an MVP level that would kind of like satisfy the users in that space. But I didn't end up moving forward with it, at least not yet, because I just couldn't figure out you know, I was worried about, is this going to be useful enough? Could this create some issues down the road where I'll tell you more about. So it was kind of in the legal space, and I'm like, hey, I'm not a lawyer. I do think this is really valuable, but am I getting in? Am I putting too much dip on my chip here, right? And I didn't even do anything yet. So for me, it's like I don't know. Sometimes you can just get a lot better answer just by trying a little bit. And for most decisions you make is reversible. If it doesn't go well, then you say, okay, that didn't go well. And as long as you didn't spend 5 years doing it, right?
Yeah.
Or as long as you didn't put yourself out of business doing it, who cares, right? It's just another wrong decision out of hundreds or thousands of wrong decisions that don't really matter, right? Actually, I think it was Jeff Bezos. He has a famous talk or a famous clip about his regret minimization framework, where
Mm-hmm.
he said there are two different types of decisions you can make, and essentially one is a closed door decision, where you can't go back, and then the other is an open door decision. I think that's the analogy.
Yeah, I think it's one way and two way doors.
Right.
Yeah, I love
That's
that
right. That's
framework.
right. So
Yeah.
I innovated on. It's mine now. But so if it's a reversible decision, it's like you might as well just try it, and
Yeah.
either it's good or it's not, and then you've actually learned something, as opposed to I heard somebody once use the analogy of like sitting in a cave for 8 years and coming out like, hey, I built this thing in the cave, right? And then people might not like the thing that you built in the cave. Whereas if I spend 8 days and I bring it out, I might find out that they don't like it, but I find out much quicker, and
Yeah.
I can either then decide, okay, this is not worth it, I'm throwing it away, or I can pivot on it and change it. But either way, there's just a lot less downside, right? So I try to keep that kind of thing in mind. And I think that there's just so much value to moving fast. And usually in entrepreneurship, it's like usually most of the people who I see who are the most successful have that gear to them, where they'll just make decisions really fast, move really fast, and like just be on to the next thing. So I kind of try to. I'm not perfect at that, but I try to bias myself towards that type of that type of motion, as opposed to being in my head too much. And
Yeah.
I'll add to it that I think that for me, some of the times where I've had the most progress on this stuff has been shortly after having, I have two kids now, as you know. So shortly after having them, it's just like I find I have so much less time. So I really have to just do something fast, or it's not going to get done. So um, all you have to do is just have a newborn, and
Yeah.
it's going to
See,
force you to just force those decisions. That's it.
that, that's some additional advice. Have a newborn and you'll get way more efficient because you just have less
Yeah,
time.
right. Either you will, or you just won't do anything.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And one of the things that I pick up from the comments that you made, Moya, which is so important. You said if it doesn't work, who cares?
Yeah.
And so having the mindset where it doesn't break you if something
Right.
doesn't work is so important. And I think that underneath the overthinking and the analysis paralysis is also the fear of failing because
Mm,
of our societies or cultural obsession
yeah.
with optics around that.
Yeah.
And so the persons who are able to embrace failure and not be crippled by it and learn from it are the ones who it seems have an opportunity to just start.
Yeah. I think that's a really big insight that you just said right there, and I think that that's been historically been a big advantage for me in life. Is just that I tend to not care. Like I just really don't care what a lot of people like, if it's not affecting me, right? So
Yeah.
let's say I'm working for somebody and they have an opinion. I have to care at that point, because they can fire. So I do care. I'm trying to optimize for the way that person thinks, what they need. Yeah, I care. But like, I find that a lot of times people are talking about just what is the generic person out there going to, or what are my old coworkers going to think when they see me posting about this thing? And I'm kind of like, what is it like? Okay, I don't know. If they plan to show up to my house and give me $10,000. Okay, then we're talking. I will consider what they think. Like, if not, who cares? And like most of the time, the fact is that the most they're gonna say is like, "Oh, that's pretty cool," or they're gonna be like, "Oh, that's dumb," and then they'll click off it, right? And
Yeah.
either way, what is that like? It affects nothing that I've done, right? It's either the things I'm doing are valuable or they work or they help somebody or not. And it just has very little to do with what anybody thinks about it, right?
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And there's a quote. It's not coming to me now, but it's something along the lines of if you care about what everyone thinks,
Yeah.
you'll do nothing and ultimately be nothing.
Right, right, right.
When I figure out what that quote is, I'll drop it in the comments as well. But yes, I think who cares?
Yeah. Yeah.
Personality also helps, and we can also build that, right? We can also put things into context around who do we care about? Who are we letting drive our decisions? What
Yeah.
fears are we allowing to cripple us and confronting them so that we can get that start?
Absolutely.
Yes. So, final question, Moya, before we close, if you could share one sentence or one quote with our audience today to inspire them to
Mm,
get that start, what would that be?
mm, 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 mm. Wow. Okay. So one one that came to mind, and I don't know if this is the right one, but so when I heard Sam Altman was talking about the possibility of I don't remember the exact quote, but he used the phrase one person or 10-person $1 billion business or something.
Hmm.
It was something along those lines, and for me, it just opened my mind to like what's possible or what's
Yeah.
becoming like the level of scale that we're talking about, right? And I don't believe that you need to make that much money to have a good life, but if anything on that order is possible, and I think that we're seeing that if it's not there yet, it's approaching it. It's like why not try to take advantage of that or try to learn how to just use this technology to kind of enhance yourself and make yourself more effective, make yourself just take up more surface area or get your stuff out
Yep.
there. Yeah, I just think that we're at one of those inflection points right now, or at least it sure seems like that to me. So I'm probably not having to convince most people out there of this, but I think it just behooves you to figure out how to use this technology to enhance what you're already doing or what you want to be doing.
Yeah. Love that. Thanks, Moyo. So there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. I will drop all the tools in the chat that Moyo mentioned so that you have them at your disposal. And thank you, Moyo, for being my first guest to
Hey.
help persons to get their start with AI, and a couple of things beyond the framework that resonated with me. Your learning in public journey and the whole concept of, having more surface area for something serpentous to happen. I think that's fantastic. The second one was building muscle. The only way to do it is by doing the push-ups, and one is not going to cut it. And so the more you do, the more you learn, the more muscle you build, and it just becomes easier, like how you're able to do some things in hours that would have taken days before. So, but you can't do any of this, folks, if you just don't get that start. So start with AI, drop your questions, comments in the chat, and more to come. Thank you.
Look forward to watching the show.